What's going on, guys? Gio with Level Up Design here. Hope you guys are doing great so far. Appreciate you tuning in. I know I've been MIA for a little bit. I apparently like to plan all my appointments and doctor's visits in November. Didn't know I even like doing that, but apparently that's what's happening. And then on top of that, my AC unit broke, so... but either way, want to come back to another pretty cool video. Things you're gonna, after the end of this, right, you want to start realizing, oh man, X game did it this way, or Y game did it that way, right? And that's basically going into the breadcrumbs or the guiding lines to show your player a certain path, or to interact with something, or to go check something out, all the above as well. And we're going to go into mainly 4 types of guidelines. So the first one's going to be color, second's going to be sound, third one's going to be breadcrumbing, and then the last one is going to be environmental. So we're going to go a little in depth with that, show you guys examples on how that looks. So let's just go and start into the color guideline, and I'll see you there. Alright, so for the first example, we're going to go into color. So obviously color is kind of a very subjective kind of broad term overall, because there's certain colors that evoke certain emotions. So like example, I know obviously here it's kind of different, but like red usually means danger. It could also mean kind of health in a way too. Where you have green is more like welcoming, inviting. Yellow is more like direction, be able to get, like there's something that way in a sense. So my first example is going to go into Mirror's Edge, really cool parkour game, which basically is showing the player, all right, anything red or has some sort of red accent is something that you could interact with, or parkour on, do like a certain movement, whatever. And the whole world's like that. The whole world's very bright. Usually the buildings are like this kind of like default, like whitish gray color. And then you have like red throughout the whole map, and you have some oranges and yellows too, but red is like the predominant one on there. Another good example, I unfortunately couldn't find a really good way to showcase it, but I think everybody has seen, play, or heard of The Last of Us. So Last of Us is a good example, because for them to like guide the player with color is they have a universal yellow. So almost like actually all their games, or most of the games, so like Last of Us does it, Uncharted does it, they all have a yellow marker on there to show that, hey look, go over here, because that means you could climb that area, or you could interact with it to go somewhere, whether it's to actually go through the actual main story, maybe a side quest, or get some loot, whatever. But that's kind of what it means when you're using a color as a guideline, right? So if you have a room and you're trying to guide the player on actually escaping, right? Good example would be to use an exit sign, right? So you put an exit sign all the way in the back, and exit signs are usually red and floating. Maybe even have it flickering as well, so that it catches your eye and you know they got to go there. Now let's say you want to walk them into like a safe room. Same concept. You could have it in the back, like a green light, just like how they do in indoors, right? And like I think Dead Space might be a good example. So you have like a red door, shows that it's locked, can't go in it. Green door means you can go in it. Or blue is also another one that's typically kind of coexists with green and blue, or they're interchanged. But you use those colors to show something, right? And again, I know this probably later on I'll do a video more on like color theory, but there are certain emotions that a player feels when they see that color. So if you are in danger or you're being chased, you want to have like red lights coming anywhere, and like a lot of dramatic like sounds, explosions, whatever. Whereas green is more like you're just gonna you're safe, you're good here, or it's gonna be something that helps you, like a healing element to your game. But that's just one quick example of using color inside of games. Now we're gonna go on to the next one, and I'll show you guys a little bit more in depth with that one. Alright guys, welcome back, and for the next kind of like guiding line cue, it's going to be sounds. Now with using sound, it's a little...
hand touches the beacon.
That was the perfect way of showing off sound cues, right? So usually in your game, right, you're going to have something that maybe they're walking down a corridor and they're going to hear, let's say something like close in the distance, right? And they're gonna be like, what the heck was that? And they're gonna turn to the right, left, whatever, and they're gonna see something, and maybe they might see a door that is now like open or locked, and they're gonna go explore it. Same thing with like if you have like a long hallway, right? Just gonna try and paint a picture. You have a long hallway, there's a door to the right of it, maybe there's an electrical box that you gotta interact with, like just to open it, but then sparks fly out of it, right? And it malfunctions, and now it doesn't work. They're gonna go explore that and realize, oh, I need a replacement breaker for this, or replacement part, so I gotta go and look for that. And there's a lot of different ways to use sounds in your games. It could also even be just like a bell tolling, right? I think Resident Evil Village did, in a sense, where like you're fighting enemies and then a bell tolls and then things kind of like stop. You look to it and then you see like the enemies are like praying or bowing down to whatever it was. So you can use that in a multitude of ways, just whatever fits best for your game. But hopefully that was a good kind of description of how you would use sounds to guide your players. Now we're going to go into the next one, which is a little bit different, and that one's called Breadcrumbs. So let's go and jump into that now. Alright, cool. So now we're going to go into breadcrumbing. Now breadcrumbing is different because there's a lot of different ways of doing it. But breadcrumbing overall is just more like a leading trail. It doesn't have to be specifically like you can see in the Spyro games, back old school ones, where they had like actual like rubies or gems that lead you somewhere. Though you can have that, right? You can have a trail of crystals or a trail of coins. Kind of like how Mario does it. Though Mario's obviously just left to right, but if you follow certain coin paths, sometimes it might lead you to a little secret area. But that's one way of kind of like guiding them. Another example of breadcrumbing would be like we have here, which I believe is Horizon Zero Dawn. They lead the player through a path, so they have a trail of that. It kind of just leads them over there, and then obviously it forks off in the distance. But it's still a consistent line or lines of things that the player could follow, and it's going to take them somewhere. Whether there's an actual main part of the story, or sideline, or just exploration, whatever, right? And the same thing for like Assassin's Creed, right? Assassin's Creed's breadcrumbing, besides like obvious things like if you're chasing down an enemy or whoever, they're just things going to block you off that you can't go explore that way, so you have to go around it and then lead you just down one linear path. But it also applies to when you're going to be doing like the vaulting climbing system, right? So not every building could be vaulted on, or you could climb up it, but a very, very large portion of it you could. And then how do you know you could like climb it and how far you could do it is by breadcrumbing with these elements, right? So you have like your like cornered paths with the little wood pieces. You have like cinder blocks that are sticking out from the wall, the windows they grip on, so on and so forth, right? So that's like breadcrumbing the player up the building. Now is it like the most like the best path to go up? Sometimes, not always, but usually you can see that, right? And you can just choose your path that you're going up to try and get there faster. But that's how you kind of like breadcrumb the player to a direction. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, right? So you could breadcrumb, like I said, with trails, with like blocks here for climbing, with actual collectibles. Collectibles are more like a common like platformer adventure game. You could also just use breadcrumbing for like enemies, right? Maybe like a building to the left is locked, but you see there's people to the right that you had to like either avoid with stealth or kill, knock out, whatever. That's another breadcrumb. You're using enemies to show you, hey, you have to actually go right to get what you potentially need to then be able to come back and go left, right? So just kind of showing that example. And then we're going to go into a very simpler, like probably the simplest one when it comes to the leading guidelines, and that's going to be with the environmental one. So we'll go into that right now. Cool. So now for the last one, it's going to be environmental. Now, the most easiest way to really just showcase this is with like level design principles, and one probably the easiest way to do it is which is the signpost, right? So I believe this is from The Witcher. Yes, this is from The Witcher. Or no, sorry, not The Witcher's from Skyrim. But in Skyrim, you have posts that point in a direction of a certain town you go to or a certain area. Obviously, you usually have your map on your marker, but if there's a certain place you want to go discover, just to have a waypoint there so you can fast travel to it, then you could do that. But that's like the easiest way to do it. More like level design principle wise, a really good way of doing it would be with guidelines for the player's eye. And what I mean by that is in this example, right? Let's just get rid of this one. So like in here, obviously the player's just going down one set path. I think this looks like it's follow, I'm pretty sure. But one straight path. But the player may not realize it, but you, when designing a level, right? If there's like a forked path, and the difference between going left and right is one is progression to get something, and the other one, which is exploratory, is having directional guidelines. So in this case, you could see you have like the floor, everything's pointing straight forward. But let's say in the case, right, you have to go open the door. Door's locked, can't get in it. So you have to go down this narrow corridor, and you get to the point where there's a fork in the road. You go right or left, right? What does the player do? They might start thinking, I don't know. There's no difference here. But in order to show to the player that the right path is the one they need to go to, you could show, let's say, like a locked door, right, where they saw it before, and then wiring and piping, whatever, that goes along to the walls here, and then that goes into the right path. That means that, okay, so if I follow these wires, right, and you can even, same thing that goes into the color breadcrumbing, right? They make the wires yellow, and they'll follow the yellow to the, okay, so if I go right, I'm going to be able to open this door however means I need to do so. Right, so there's just some things to keep in mind when it comes to creating levels. If you don't want to explicitly tell them, hey, go right, or oh, I think it's in X room, right? You want them to kind of like explore the world and figure things out for themselves. That's one way to do it. Combining these elements to make a really like impact on where their decisions to go and how they're going to be progressing in the game, right? And that all in all was pretty much a very condensed way of how to guide players when you're playing your game. So again, we're going to have color, we're going to have sound, we're going to have breadcrumbing, which again could be a multitude of different ways to do it, but basically a trail leading to where they need to go to, and environmental. And all those things can be easily combined together, right? Just kind of like I used in the previous example. A locked door that needs to get power to it, you have a wire leading out from the door, wrapping around wherever it needs to go to that electrical box, and you can make that color coded. And you can even make it to the point that when the player gets to that room, you have a spark go off to where it shows where the breaker is that needs to be fixed. Boom, you have the sound cue as well. And then breadcrumbing goes into that sound. You have the coloring and environmental. Again, if you wanted to add that, like if maybe you need to go to a specific room, you put the room name on the outside, room number, whatever. Right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry again, I've been MIA for a bit. I am back on routine now. If you still want to go ahead and check out my streams, I have been able to at least stay pretty consistent with that. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12 to 3, off streams, kind of like here and there, just playing games and hanging out. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any help you guys could show my way, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take it easy.